So recently Nintendo dropped the new trailer for Metroid Dread and I was just a tad excited.
Metroid 5! Metroid 5? Dread!
Yeah! I've seen many people interested in giving the series a try or just want to know how to prepare for Dread, and I posted on Twitter about it, but I figured it'd be fun to make a video and share what is, in my opinion, the best way to play these games. I'm going to direct this video towards someone who has very little knowledge about Metroid aside from Samus being a girl, there being Metroids, and that there is a Dark Samus. So let's get this started. One thing that I'm sure many of you will be happy to hear is that the Metroid series is actually very straightforward. There's the main timeline consisting of the 2D games and Other M, and the Metroid Prime series that exists entirely between the first two Metroid games. All of the mainline Metroid games are numbered titles, even if it isn't present on the box art. You can see them listed at the start of Super Metroid and Metroid Fusion, which are Metroids 3 and 4, and Metroid Dread is Metroid 5, so it will be at the end of this timeline set after Metroid Fusion. There also exist 2 official remakes as well as a fan remake I will be including in this video for reasons I will explain later. Now here's the Metroid timeline. So it begins with the original Metroid and its remake Zero Mission, then the Prime series with the Metroid Prime Trilogy, Metroid Prime Hunters, and Metroid Prime Federation Force, then back to the 2D timeline with Metroid 2 Return of Samus and its 2 remakes. After that is Super Metroid, followed by Metroid Fusion, and then lastly Metroid Dread. So if you want to know my personal recommendation for the binging order, it is this. Now if you're wondering why I didn't include the Prime series, well you could say it's kind of its own thing. The Prime series is set between Metroid 1 and 2, as it is a time period with probably the most freedom to explore the universe of early Metroid, and really adds a lot of cool context to the universe. However, in regards to the overarching story, it is mostly uninvolved and therefore is not necessary material to understand Dread. To really understand Metroid 5 and catch up, I think only the 2D games are necessary. So before we begin, we do need to talk about platforms, as unfortunately Nintendo has not made them all readily available as of now. Metroid 1 and Super Metroid are available on pretty much every virtual console and Nintendo's online service. However, Metroid Zero Mission and Metroid Fusion are only available on Wii U Virtual Console, and Metroid 2 and its remake Samus Returns are only available on 3DS. So you might have to spread yourself across some platforms to play some of these. Luckily these aren't very story heavy early on, so not all of them are necessary, but if I had to choose a minimum, I think you should play Super Metroid and Fusion if possible before Dread. However, if you have all of these games and are ready to go, then let's begin. Now in specifics, I'm going to narrow this down a little bit more and say that unless you are someone that really likes retro games and are willing to put up with some frustrating game design in Metroid 1, I think you are better off sticking with the remakes. However, if you choose to play the originals, there's definitely a lot of novelty to seeing how the game design built up to Super Metroid, but I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. Metroid Zero Mission is a complete remake of the original Metroid game that keeps the original level design while adding in tons of abilities from later games and adding a lot more structure to it. Zero Mission may also be the easiest game on this list, which also means it is a great one to start with and isn't horribly long either. Though, take it from me, I personally do not recommend 100%ing this game, as you don't get that much of value and some of these secrets are a little too precise for my liking. Another Metroid 2 remake, the fan remake of Metroid 2, is what I recommend you play next. Despite this being a fan game, this one is actually incredibly well designed and managed to capture the original game's story and tone really well, while adding a bunch of improvements. This game, unlike Zero Mission, is one of the hardest ones on this list, but it has the same control feel as Zero Mission, which makes the game a lot easier for you to pick up right afterwards. There's another remake of Metroid 2 officially licensed by Nintendo, but I actually recommend that you play that one later for multiple reasons. But one of them being that I think it takes too many liberties from the original, and if you want a better understanding of the original narrative, you'd be better off if you played AM2R first, as it is definitely the more faithful of the two. Super Metroid is a classic, and I actually recommend that you play this immediately following AM2R. Super Metroid actually introduces a ton of series staples, and it generally is considered a classic for this exact reason, much like Metroid Prime. It is an excellent game, but I will admit a problem of this play order is that coming off of AM2R, the controls for this one will feel a little bit odd, and it will feel a lot more natural coming off of the originals. But the controls in Super are actually really good once you get used to them, and the game actually has some of the best exploration in the entire series with tons of flexibility if you actually know what to do. And this is actually my favorite Super Nintendo game behind Chrono Trigger, so there we go. Metroid Fusion is the last game in the timeline until Dread got announced. This was also my first Metroid game, and this is probably the third easiest game in the series in my opinion, behind Zero Mission and the original Metroid 2. However, if you're not careful, bosses will actually kick your face in, and this is the game that actually really embraced the action and horror side of Metroid as opposed to some of the other ones. This game also has easily the most story of all the games, featuring a computer guiding you around the space station in a linear fashion. Though you are given some freedom in terms of how to go to locations, the game is significantly more linear than the previous titles. However, for me, this is actually a really good thing, as I feel like it helps this game stand apart from the previous 3 games, and will actually be a nice change of pace once you get to it. The story in this game is also really good and has held up for me over the years, and I'm really excited to see where they take this story in the next game. Samus Returns is the other remake of Metroid 2, and I recommend you play this one last. You might be wondering why, and I actually have several reasons aside from it taking liberties as mentioned before. I want to say right away, I do not think it taking liberties is a bad thing, as Samus Returns actually evolved the gameplay of the series significantly, and actually is the most similar to Dread, with tons of Dread's gameplay coming directly from this game. Because of this, I feel going from Samus Returns to Super Metroid may come off as more jarring than coming off of AM2R. Samus Returns greatly expanded the controls in combat and features some of the most exciting boss fights I have ever fought in a Metroid game. Also, the game seems to have teased and set up some plot points that I believe will be expanded upon in Dread, so with all of this considered, I think this one is best played last. And with that, you should be ready for Dread. Now I want to address some of the other games I left out. If you want to play the Prime series as well and happen to have a Wii U, I can also recommend the Metroid Prime trilogy for that, and they are easily some of my favorites in the series. Now Other M is a controversial game. If you want a 3D adaptation of the 2D gameplay, it is fine, just the story is generally not well received, and most of the fanbase doesn't consider it a very good game. Still, you might see something in it though, just I personally don't. Oh man, I forgot the most important one. Nintendo Land, baby! Aw yeah, Ridley, take that! Well, that's not good. Alright, that's going to be it for this video. Do you guys like my list? Do you guys disagree with my list? Feel free to comment down below and let me know, and feel free to also just let me know your thoughts on the Metroid series in general. I'm a huge fan of the Metroid series. I've been playing it, well, since Metroid Fusion, and it is super cool that we're getting a sequel to it that is at the end of the timeline, and I'm just excited to see what they do next with the story. And if you guys also only want to play Metroid Dread, good news, this series for the most part, despite everything I've said before, is actually not really that story heavy, so I believe it also is recapping it as well, so if you guys do want to play Metroid Dread, you guys should be able to keep up with it fine. I mean, I played Fusion first, and I was able to follow the story pretty darn good, but you will be missing out on some context, so if you guys do want to play through the rest of the series, good news, they're short. You can do them within easily before the game comes out, pretty much, and I really recommend that you do give at least a few of them a try if you're able to. But again, regardless, I want to thank you guys so much for tuning into this video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and if you guys also have a friend who may also be interested in playing the 2D series, you can feel free to show them this video if you guys agree with my take. If you guys don't agree with my take, you can basically also give them your opinion. That's perfectly fine. I don't really care either way. I just want to share some love for this series, and seriously, just play Metroid Dread, okay? The game looks super good. At the end of the day, get the game, alright? The Metroid series has been, like, on hiatus for an insane amount of time, and I'd like it to get a bunch of, you know, new releases, much like when the Prime series was really popular back when I was a kid. I would really love that, because I love these games. There really aren't enough of them, and I want to play more of them. But again, anyway, that's enough of that. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next one. See you next mission.
Oh, so you're stealing my outro now, huh? Let's see how it is. It's not like I patented it or anything.